The remaining 6 years of Amurath's life and reign were signalized by successful enterprises against the Peloponnesos, the petty despots of which became tributary vassals of the Ottomans, and by a great defeat which they gave his old antagonist Huniades at the Kosovo after a 3 days battle in October 1448. In Albania his arms were less fortunate, and during the latter part of the Amurath's reign his power was defied and his pride repeatedly humbled by the celebrated George Castroid, called by the Turks Skanderbeg, or Lord Alexander, the name which he is best known in the history. Hmm. Skanderbeg, Lord Alexander. The father of this champion, John Castroid, Lord of Amalsia, the modern district of Moglene, had submitted, like the other petty despots of those regions, to Amurath early in his reign and had placed his 4 sons in the Sultan's hands to hostage for his fidelity. Three of them died young. The fourth, whose name was George, pleased the Sultan by his beauty, strength, and intelligence. Amurath caused him to be brought up in the Mohammedan creed. And when he was only 18, conferred on him the government of one of the sanjaks of the empire. The young Albanian proved his courage and skill in many exploits under Amurath's eye, and received from him the name of Skanderbeg, the Lord Alexander. When John Castroid died, Amurath took possession of his principalities and kept the son constantly employed in distant wars. Skanderbeg brooded over this injury, and when the Turkish armies were routed by Huniades in the campaign of 1443, Skanderbeg determined to escape from their side and assume forcible possession of his patrimony. He suddenly entered the tent of the Sultan's chief secretary and forced that functionary with the poniard at his throat to write and seal a formal order to the Turkish commander of the strong city of Croia in Albania to deliver the place and the adjacent territory to Skanderbeg as the Sultan's viceroy. He then stabbed the secretary and hastened to Croia, where his stratagem gained him instant admittance and submission. He now publicly abjured the Mohammedan faith and declared his intention of defending the creed of his forefathers and restoring the independence of his native land. The Christian population flocked readily to his banner, and the Turks were massacred without mercy. For nearly 25 years, Skanderbeg contended against all the power of the Ottomans, so directed by the skill of Amurath and his successor Muhammad, the conqueror of Constantinople. The difficult nature of the wild and the mountainous country which he occupied aided Skanderbeg materially in the long resistance which he thus opposed to the elsewhere triumphant Turks. But his military genius must have been high, and without crediting all the legends of his personal prowess, we may well believe that the favorite chief of the Albanian mountaineers in the guerrilla warfare, by which he chiefly baffled the Turks, must have displayed no ordinary skill and daring, and many may have possessed strength and activity such as rarely fall to the lot of men. The strongest proof of his valor is the superstitious homage which they paid to him when they occupied Lisa in the Venetian territories. Writer Skanderbeg had at last retired from Albania and where he died in 1567. The Turkish soldiers forced open his tomb and eagerly sought portions of his bones to wear as amulets, thinking that they would communicate a spirit of valor similar to that of the hero to whose mortal fabric they had once belonged. The Sultan under whom Skanderbeg fought in youth died long before the bold Albanian, who once had been his favorite pupil in the art of war, and afterwards his most obstinate adversary. Amurath expired at Adrianople in 1451, after having governed his people with justice and in honor for 30 years. His noble qualities are attested by the Greek as well as by Turkish historians. He was buried at Bursa. Our own old historian Knowles, who wrote in 1610, says of his sepulchre, "Here he now lieth in a chapel without any roof, his grave nothing differing from that of the common Turks, which they say they commanded to be born in his last will, that the money, mercy, and blessing of God might come unto him by the shining of the sun and moon, and the falling of the rain and dew of heaven upon his grave." According to the authorities that were used and decorated by Knolls, Skanderbeg ever fought against the Turks with his arm bare, and that with such fierceness that the bold dyed blood did oftentimes burst out of his lips. It is written that he, with his own hand, slew 3,000 Turks in the time of his wars against them. One of the best of the numerous harangues which Knowles introduces in his history is the speech which at page 198 of his first volume he puts in the mouths of Turkish soldiers, a rough, bold-spirited fellow, at Svetigrade in defiance of the threats of Skanderbeg. The Turk bites. Skanderbeg's messengers tell their master that if he seeks to impose those conditions on us, let him once more bear that arm of his which men of courage fear not so much as think it. Byron, when a boy, was, like Jace Johnson, fond of reading novels, and he must have had this picture of Skanderbeg in his mind when he described Alp in the Siege of Corinth. Chapter 5